Hey guys, welcome back to NY Sports MC. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Click the bell so you know when all my videos are coming out. Sorry I took a little bit of time away from the Sunday chats. Just needed to kind of get away from everything. I have been on Gangrene David's roundtable the last 2 weeks though, so I did put out some content just over there on that channel. I was getting ready to post my 53-man projection, and then David asked me to come on to his channel and talk about it live. So I had my predictions over there. So you can feel free to go over to his channel, check it out. But wanted to go through the actual 53-man after they made their cuts today. This by no means will be the 55 come week one, because we still have a few people that we have to put on the injury list, and they're going to be working the waiver wire as well. So just kind of talk about some of the people that were some of the surprises from what I had, some of the spots where I was off. I guess that's where we'll start right now. Jeff Smith, I thought the injury was going to kind of seal his fate, and is not making this team, but he did make the team. I would probably expect him to go to injury list, unless it's not as bad as we thought. But with the injury reserve this year, they're allowing any amount of people to go on, any amount of people to return because of COVID, and you only have to miss 3 games. So that's going to be the big difference now, is that these guys can get on there and get back on onto the roster in relatively short order. So Vincent Smith did make it, as I kind of thought he would. I think he'll go right on the IR as well. I think then they'll either look to bring back Moncrief or one of these other wide receivers that I'm going to mention. A little surprised that both Harrison and Josh Andrews got cut. So as of right now, we do not have a backup center on the roster. That's something that look to see if they address it in the coming days here, as they either try to claim somebody else or possibly even bring back one of these guys. So I was mentioning on David's channel too. So you got the 53-man roster now, right? But there was all those rumors about it was going to 55. So what was the 55? I thought the rosters were expanding to 55 this year. So I did some research. What actually happens is they can elevate 2 players from the practice squad every single week to the active roster. So you may see something like that. Maybe they try to stash whoever doesn't get claimed on the practice squad, elevate them up. Not really sure, but we'll have to kind of see what they do there. They definitely have to bring in somebody probably on the regular 53, in that backup offensive line, because that's a spot where I'm looking right now, and they're thin. I mean, the backups on the offensive line are Edoga, Clark, and McDermott. And I know McDermott and both Clark at least have dealt with a little bit of injuries in camp. So I think Hilbers will be somebody that may make the practice squad as well. I know they had high hopes for him. Other than those two cut, the other big cut, Burgess. I liked Burgess last year, but that's a deep, deep middle linebacker spot. So not really surprised that somebody got cut. Um, Again, that's somebody that you can probably see maybe going on our practice squad, maybe even get re-signed if he goes unclaimed, because Peanut's going to probably go on the IR as well, because he's supposed to be out 5 or 6 weeks. And then the corners, I projected Harrison to get cut. I had him as one of my cuts. There are two. I just didn't think that we were going to keep all those guys. Another one that I had too is, and I think they're going to address this as all these other guys. Like I said, they could easily free up 6 or so roster spots. So you look at it, Flacco may go on the IR, may not, depending upon how many games they think he's going to miss. Um, Both Smiths, Jeff and Vincent, could probably go on the IR. Um, like I said, Peanut's definitely going to go on the IR. And I think that's it. So that right there just opened 4 spots potentially. And then I think that there's going to be some guys that are still going to be cut, even though they made the initial 53. We kept every single defensive lineman that was in camp. I don't project them to run with that many. I mean, Jordan Willis, I did not expect him to make the team. And even Bryce Huff, I did not expect to make the team either. Maybe they just feel like people had very high expectations. He was a highly touted undrafted. So maybe they thought somebody would take a flyer on him, and they're trying to keep him a little bit longer and then stash him later on and try to move him to the practice squad. Not really sure. The real surprise there, because like I said, if this was the beginning at training camp, I would have said, yeah, I think there's a chance that Bryce Huff can make this team, especially with our need of edge rusher. But you just didn't hear a single thing about him, and that's not good when you're an edge rusher. So now, if you're an offensive lineman and you don't hear nothing about him, that's a good thing. That means you're not committing a penalty, you're not getting blown up, you're not getting your quarterback killed, right? Even though they can't get hit in training camp. So you're not doing those types of things, right? But when you're an edge rusher, you're supposed to be the one. Oh, he got a sack here, or would be sacked, right? Because obviously they're not tackling the quarterback in practice. So that was kind of surprising that he made the team when we didn't hear a thing about him all training camp. But maybe they were trying to keep it quiet to be able to stash him. Not really sure there, but we'll have to see. And Farley didn't make the team either, safety. I think they're going to have to bring in a safety because right now you only have three in the roster. So you got May, McDougald, and Davis. And with how much they plan on using Davis in the three safety sets and possibly all over the place in special teams, you need to get a backup safety because essentially Davis is going to be playing like a starter when you look at how often he's going to be on the field. So you really need a backup to them as well. Special teams, nothing there, man. Ficken and Hennessy, we knew it was going to be that once Maher got cut earlier in the week. Corners we spoke about, inside linebackers we spoke about, outside linebackers everybody made it. I was a little surprised that Harvey Langley made it. You're carrying 5 outside linebackers. We'll see if they keep them all. We'll see if Zuniga's healthy enough. Do they try to maybe IR him, give him a little extra time? Hopefully not. But tight ends, Daniel Brown did get cut. I think that they would probably like to put him on the practice squad if he does clear through waivers. I think he's a nice piece to try to keep in the fold. He has showed some ability as a receiving tight end. So if Griffin with his ankle, as he said, he's never going to feel the same again. If something were to happen and he needed some time out, you could elevate, Brown. Lawrence Cager, I know that was a big one that a lot of fans liked. I think that they're really hoping he goes unclaimed and put him on the practice squad. It's just tough to keep him when he was banged up, and Jeff Smith played well as well, and Vincent Smith played well. Those guys, like I said, I didn't think Jeff Smith was going to get kept. I thought there was a chance. I would have thought there was more of a chance if he didn't get hurt. But maybe when those guys go in the IR, they even look to bring Cager back on the actual team. Who knows? But yeah, that's what I have it. So I'll go through and just name the 53 real quick in case anybody hasn't seen it yet. So at quarterback, we kept 3, Sam Darnold, Morgan, and Flacco. At running back, we kept 3 as well, Bell, Gore, and Pirine. At wide receiver, we kept 7, Perryman, Mims, Crowder, Hogan, Berrios, Jeff Smith, and Vincent Smith. But like I said, Jeff Smith and Vincent Smith at least are going to go on the IR. Tight end, they kept 3, Herndon, Griffin, Wesco. The tackle position, they kept 4. Obviously, starters Becton and Fant, and then McDermott and Edoga. At guard, they kept 3, Lewis, Van Roten, and Clark. At center, they only kept Connor McGovern. So that's going to definitely be a position that they're going to have to address. Defensive line, like I mentioned, they kept everybody. Henry Anderson, Foley Fatukasi, Steve McClendon, Kyle Phillips, Quentin Williams, Jordan Willis, Franklin Myers, who had a very, very good camp, Nathan Shepard, and Bryce Huff. If you have, actually Bryce Huff more outside linebacker. But now outside linebacker, they kept Jenkins, Basham, Zuniga, Luvu, and Langley. Inside linebacker, they kept Cashman, Williamson, Hewitt, and Peanut. I try not to say his last name because I'm not 100% sure how to say it. Corners, they kept Desir, Blesson Austin, Brian Poole, Arthur Millette, and Wilson. So before somebody says in the comments, where is Bryce Hall? Bryce Hall is on the non-injury football list. So he's going to miss the first, I think, 7 games. It's a list that you're able to use for these players who came from college with a pre-existing injury already. So he's pretty much in a red shirt this year. I think it's going to be very similar to what we saw from Blesson Austin last year. I think the ideal goal, just like the ideal goal last year, was to not play Austin. But due to injuries and poor play from people in front of him, he ended up getting a chance later in the season. But I would say that we probably do not see Hall this year unless something goes really wrong in that cornerback spot. Safeties, they kept 3, Marcus May, McDougald, Davis, and the specialists, like I mentioned, Mann, Ficken, and Hennessy. So I think they can easily open 6 or so roster spots to either bring back some of our own guys or go comb the waiver wire to see what we can do. And I think Douglas is going to be all over it. This is his opportunity to really shine and show what he can do again here in this time. So where do I see those spaces open? Like I mentioned throughout the video, Flacco could be on the IR. P. Ryan, who knows with that ankle? Apparently, it sounds like it's not that bad. So I would envision him staying on the active roster. But Vincent Smith, Jeff Smith could both be candidates for the IR. And then we could also have Peanut is definitely going to go in the IR. So he said that's 4 right there. And I envision us cutting probably at least 1 or 2 of these defensive linemen. I mean, you can't go in with this many. So I'd say like Jordan Willis and even maybe Franklin Myers or somebody like that may still get cut because that's just too many people. So right there, that's your 6 roster spots potentially. So some of the names that I'm looking at that have been cut from other teams. Let's start with the most important one, at least I think at the wide receiver position. We are banged up there. We don't have a lot of talent either. 2 guys that I think of. One, if you want to look at a veteran presence, Mohamed Sanu was cut by the Patriots. He is from the New Jersey area, so I'm sure he'd be interested in coming on board, kind of playing, right in his backyard. He was a Rutgers grad. So I can see him kind of, maybe bring him back instead of potentially bring back a Moncrief if you think he can maybe produce a little bit more. And the one that you also have Deontay Burnett, who was with us 2 years ago, has the connection with Sam from USC. Showed a little something when he got the opportunity due to injuries. I mean, I wouldn't, mind potentially looking to bring him back. But the real guy I want, because I think he probably has the most upside potential out of any of those guys, is Hakeem Butler. He was a 4th round pick of the Arizona Cardinals last year. Very tall guy. He's got speed. Um, the big knock on him is that he's raw, right? He was raw coming out last year. He was doing pretty well at training camp last year, from what I remember, and then took a season-ending injury, so did not play a snap last year. Was coming back this year, but obviously with the addition of Hopkins, they did have a few other draft picks that they had from last year as well. They have a pretty stacked wide receiver room. He was, just a numbers, right? Ended up getting cut there. They really didn't want to. They tried trading. They tried getting some for him. Were not able to. So I would take a flyer on Hakeem Butler without a doubt, if our waiver claim got through. And then edge rusher is another position where, obviously we're looking for somebody opposite of Jordan Jenkins. Hopefully Zuniga can be that. But I bring in another body. I bring in Shaq Griffin from Seattle. I think he's somebody that has a high end motor, works really, really hard. Obviously, great backstory. If you don't know, he's a twin brother of the other Griffin, who's a safety for Seahawks. I don't remember his first name, but I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, in the womb, the umbilical cord, I believe, it was wrapped around his hand, and he had to get it amputated right after birth, I believe, and has made it obviously all the way to the NFL with only one hand. Obviously, strong competitor and high work ethic. But yeah, he's somebody I think can give you a little something off the edge. And when you're in a position like we are, where we just don't have the edge, why not take shots on guys, right? What's the worst that can happen? You try to put him in as a rotational guy. If he doesn't, if he can't produce any pressure, I mean, we're really no worse off than we were, right? Because we don't have a lot of people to kind of throw out there. So I would look to bring him in as well. And then cornerback position, right? We only have 5 on the roster right now, so I think you can see us try to add a 6th. And 2 guys from Joe Douglas's stomping grounds, the Eagles, got cut, that I think he could possibly look at, because obviously he was there when they drafted both of these guys. And that's Rasul Douglas and Sidney Jones. Sidney Jones was a 2nd-round pick a few years ago. Injuries has been the big concern for him. But Sidney Jones was somebody that they even thought might have won in the 1st round, his draft, and has some definite upside potential. So those are some of the guys that I've noticed that got cut from some other teams. But obviously, like I said, we got to do something on the interior offensive line as well. You can't go in with just Connor McGovern at center. And then I think they bring in another safety as well. Whether they bring back Farrelly or they bring back Bennett Jackson or they go out there and they try to get a safety from another team that was cut. I think you got to go into the season with four safeties. And I'd love for them to bring it. I mean, it's too late now at this point. I mean, Ficken's going to be our kicker, but there's been some other kickers out there that I wish they would have brought in and maybe cut Maher a little bit sooner. But, that's what I got for us right now. Like I said, this 53 man by no means is going to be what it is by even the end of this week, Labor Day weekend, right? So watch out for the waiver wire, watch out for possible trades, and watch out for us filling out the practice squad. So I'll be back. Probably, it depends on how quickly everything goes, but probably after the dust settles on waiver claims in the practice squad, because I don't want to keep making one like every single time something comes out. So, that's what I have it. Let me know in the comments down below if there's any other people that were cut from other teams that you like, that you want the Jets to look at. Like I said, I was trying to just kind of see who the big names were. I could have easily missed somebody as the dust is still kind of settling on some of these names as well. So, I think for the most part, not a lot of shockers, like I mentioned. Harrison, Josh Andrews, probably the biggest shockers of them. But other than that, pretty much in line with mostly what I had. And the other big shocker, obviously, keeping all those defensive linemen. But again, let me know in the comments down below if there's anybody that you guys want the Jets to target. And like I said, I'll be back once this kind of settles to talk more about what our actual 53 man is going to look like for week one. So, like I said, subscribe to the channel, like the channel, click that bell, and then as always, Jet up.